Friends and viewer, good day. Tolstoy, a very famous man, a great writer of the 19th century, Russian novelist, a short story and essay writer. He had written a short story, a very famous one. How much land does a man require? So this short story is published in 1886 by this great Russian writer. How much land does a man require? It is a Russian folk tale about a peasant greed for land and its consequences. Tolstoy wrote the story in his late 50s, during a period when he believed that all literature should contain a moral lesson. It has had a powerful impact on reader for well over 100 years. The story consists of 9 parts. In part 1, a woman visits her younger sister who lives in the country. The elder sister, who is married to a tradesman in a town, talks about all the advantages of town life: fine clothes, good food, trips to the theater, and other things. This annoys the younger sister, who is married to a village peasant. She says she would not trade her peasant life. She and her husband may never grow rich, but they will always have enough money, whereas rich people often lose all they have. The city, she says, surround people with temptation from the devil. Lying on the stove nearby, the younger sister husband, Pahum, overhears what they are saying. He agrees with his wife, but he also thinks they do not have enough land. If he had more land, even the devil would not be able to tempt him. The devil, who is sitting unseen in the room, hears this boast and decides to give Pahom more land to ensnare him. In part 2 of this story, a lady who owns a large estate close to Pahom hires a steward who finds the peasant when their cattle stray into the estate. Pahom is annoyed whenever he must pay a fine. When the lady decides to sell the land, the peasant try to arrange for their life commune to buy it, but the devil causes them to disagree amongst themselves about how to do this. In the end, the land is sold individually to those peasants who can afford it. Pahom raises enough money to buy 40 acres of land. He is now a landowner and enjoys good harvest. He is content. In part 3 of this story, Pahom's happiness is spoiled when cattle belonging to some of the neighboring peasants stray into his land. For a while, Pahom tolerates these intrusions, but later he decides that he must teach the peasant a lesson. He forces them to pay fine. The peasant resent this and bear a grudge against him. After 5 of Pahom's lime trees are destroyed, Pahom accuses a man named Simon of the deed. He goes to Simon's homestead but finds nothing incriminating. There is a trial and then a retrial, but Simon is acquitted for lack of evidence. Pahom accuses the judge of taking bribes and quarrel further with his neighbor. During this period, Pahom learns that many peasants in the village are moving away, and he hopes this will enable him to buy more land. A peasant passing through the village tells him that many people have been moving to an area hundreds of miles away on the other sides of the river Volga. Each peasant has received 25 acres of high-quality land. Pahom's interest is aroused. He visits the new settlement in the summer and is pleased with what he sees. In the fall, he returns home and sells all his belongings. In the spring, he and his family make their way to the new community. When he arrives in part 4, the commune of a large village gives Pahum and his sons 125 acre of their own uses. Pahum was much arable land, and there is plenty of room for him to pasture his cattle. But he soon decided to grow more wet than his land can accommodate. To solve the problem, he rent land from a dealer, but this requires transporting the wheat he grows more than 10 miles to the village. Nevertheless, his crops are good and he continues the arrangement of 3 years. But then he has grown tired of renting and wants to own land instead. He negotiates with a peasant and is about to buy 1,300 acres from him. But then a passing dealer returning from the distant Bashkir land tells Pahum that he bought 1,300 acres there for a very little money. The dealer gave the Bashkir chief some gift and they were happy to sell their land. Pahum realized that if he were to do the same, he would get 10 times as much land for less money than he is poised to pay the peasant. In part 5, leaving his wife behind, Pahum and servant travel more than 300 miles to the Bashkir. Their journey takes him almost a week. They find that Bashkir live in a felt-covered tent by a river. They could not cultivate land, but they do own cattle and horses. The women milk the cows, and from that milk they make a drink called kumis. The men like to eat mutton, play their pipes, and drink kumis. They greet Pahum warmly, giving him food and drink. And Pahum offers them gifts, including tea and wine. They then ask Pahum what he likes best among all things they possess, so they can give them what he wants. Pahum says that he is very impressed with their land, which is much better than land where he comes from. The Bashkir talk amongst themselves for a while and then offer him as much land as he desires. They do, however, need to confirm this with their chief. In part 6, the Bashkir chief arrives and Pahum gives him tea and fine dressing gown. With this, his man telling him about the proposed land deal, the chief readily agrees to it. At Pahum's request, he also says he will issue a deed to the land so there will be no dispute about it. The chief then tells Pahum that the price of the land will be 1,000 rubles a day. Pahum is puzzled by what that means, and the chief explains that he can have as much land as he can walk around in the day. If he fails to return to his starting point with that time, he will forfeit his 1,000 rubles. When Pahum asks how he is to identify the land he covers, the chief tells him to make a mark with a spade from time to time. When he makes a turn, he is to dig a hole and pile up the turf round it. In part 7, Pahum plans to walk a circuit of 35 miles the following day. He lies awake thinking of what he will do with the land. Just before dawn, he goes to sleep and has a dream in which he hears someone outside the tent laughing. In the dream, he goes outside and discovers that the man laughing heartily is the chief. When Pahum asks him why he is laughing, he sees that the man is now the dealer who told him about the Bashkirs. Pahum is about to ask the man a question when he sees that he is not the dealer but the peasant from long ago who told him about the land on the other side of Volga. Pahum then sees that the figure is the devil and that in front of him lies a dead man. Pahum himself frightened, he wakes up. He realizes that the dawn is approaching and he gets up and goes to the Bashkir, telling them it is time to start measure the land. Part 8 begins with Pahum and the Bashkir assembling on the hillock, Pahom sets off towards the rising sun, digging holes and piling up pieces of turf from time to time. He walks roughly 3 miles as the day heats up. He takes off his undercoat and continues. Then he takes his boot off, which makes it easier to walk. He walks for what he thinks is another 3 miles, digs a hole and turns to the left. At noon he sits and the rest of for a while, after which he continues walking for a long time. When he makes another turn, he notices that the bashkir who are waiting for him on the hillock look like they are a long way away. He decides to make the third side of his land shorter, but he gets worried when he realizes he has walked less than 2 miles on that side. He still has 10 miles to go, yet the sun is already sinking in the sky. He decides to hurry back in the straight line, even though that will make his land loop side. In part 9, Pahom is tired and finds it hard to walk, but nonetheless he walks faster and faster, then breaks into a run. Describing his coat, boots and flask, he hears the bashkir yelling, urging him on, and also notice the sun is closing to the horizon. Pahom remembers his dream and thinks he may die. When the sun sinks below the horizon, his despair increases, but then a last hope comes. The bashkir are on a higher ground and can still see the sun. He runs to the top of the hillock before collapsing. As he falls forward, he managed to touch the chief's cap in which his money lies, and the chief declares that Pahom has acquired a lot of land. However, when Pahom's servant runs to him, he finds that Pahom is dead. The servant digs a grave and buries him. After striving for so long to acquire land, all the land Pahom needs now is 6 feet. So this is the greed of man, the hero, the protagonist of this short story, Pahom, how he greeded for a land, but he could not acquire it. At last he lost his own life instead. So this is the short story of Tolstoy, how much land does a man require? So the theme of this story is envy, greed and loss. Pahom works hard as peasant tilling the land. The only thing that bothers him, setting the entire plot in motion, is his desire for more land. At first, there seemed to be nothing wrong with this desire to have a little more. The devil declaration in part 1 and his ambition to become a landowner is understandable. He merely hopes to prosper, to improve his lot in life. A warning note, however, is sounded in part 2 when the lady landowner sells her land. When the peasant decides to buy the land individually, Pahom hears that one of his neighbors is buying 50 acres and he feels envious. Pahom fears that other people are getting ahead of him. After he has purchased some land, he quarrels with his neighbor. There are even threats to burn his building down, which never happened. When they did not have much property, a pattern begins to emerge. Though Pahom had more land, his place in the commune is much worse than before. Each gain in land coincides in a lose in some other area of life. Often the lose is a peace of mind. So this is the theme of this story. How much land does a man require? So we see that Pahom, the protagonist of this, he is a protagonist, only character whose thoughts and action are described in detail. Pahom is married with at least 2 sons. He appeared to be a good husband since his wife is content with the life they have, and he consults his wife about the details of acquiring. When he gets frustrated, he can show a bad temper and take it out on his family. So this is the deed of the Pahom, his greed, how he met his end, how he lost his life while he was acquiring land, as much land as but he did not succeed. Instead, he lost his life and he was buried in that place Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you will enjoy this short story, a very great short story written by Leo Tolstoy. Thank you very much.